Well, you've become quite the little space traveler, haven't you and I? We've become quite the space travelers. Interesting question, though, is are there aliens? Answer is we don't know. People make up all kinds of stories, so be careful with that. But one thing that's interesting, what we do know is that going to the worlds of our solar system, just the little grains of sand going around our star sun, takes a long time. It takes a long time to travel those distances. And from what we know, and from our spacecraft, and from what we know of fundamental physics, to get to other stars would take a long time, and you'd have to keep these beings fed and hydrated if they're water-based or whatever, nourished in whatever way, and alive and breathing, so you've got to have air. How much air can you carry? How do you recycle that? How do you regenerate it? How do you do that for tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years? How do you do that? Are there wormholes where you can go from one part of the universe to another quickly? We don't know any. We can theorize, we can imagine, hypothesize, but we don't know. What we do know is that we can travel with robotic craft, and we can send people that we don't like out to our solar system. Our solar system, you know where it came from. The creation steps you should have memorized, essential, basics, so people are exploring the details of that, fine. And the contents in order, you know all that, right? Repetition, repetition, keep repeating that as you learn the new, review the old, and you will keep it and it will contextualize everything. You know that knowing a planet's moon or size, that is its width compared with Earth, will tell you a lot. And if you can't say what it will tell you, then you need to review that. Keep that reviewing. Knowing the distances in AUs, a lot bigger than a DE, right? DE is grain of sand, AU much more. It tells us, again, what does that tell us? So you need to refresh that and have that so you can quickly understand quite a lot about our hood, our solar system. And in Chapter 8, we're going into the worlds of our solar system. And some people say, the world. What? There's only one world, the world, Earth. Well, that's kind of an antiquated view, isn't it? We used to think that we were at the center of the universe. Maybe the universe is an antiquated view. But again, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves unless we're writing science fiction and we can have fun, movies, etc. But let's get, the real science, the real work is done in the details, right? But the inspiration can be larger than that too. We want to study these worlds, and you can understand so much from the widths and distances, so keep those memory aids going. Look at some YouTube videos, National Geographic, Discovery, whatever you've got, and kind of get this. We're going to study first the four inner planets. Oh, we already did one down, so we've only got 3 to go: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Then we're going to study the 4 outer planets: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. We're going to do that very briefly, very quickly, but it's important because it hints at stars, and we'll come back to that. Okay? And then we're going to study some of the over 180 moons of our solar system. We've done our moon, Luna. We've done that well. So Earth and Moon give us a good context for studying everything else. We'll look at the Mars, its 2 little potato moons real quickly. Jupiter, we'll look at 4 of its it used to be over 60, now it's over 70 moons, whatever it is. Jupiter's 4 biggest moons, the Galilean moons, you know who saw those. But he didn't see the other ones because his telescope wasn't good enough to see the other ones. Saturn's got 3 moons. We're going to go from small, really small, tiny, to small, to large with Saturn. Really quickly, honorable mention for Uranus, and 1 for Neptune. So those are the worlds of our solar system. Let's take a look here, refresh real quickly, and go over. And we saw widths and distances, and we said, okay, you can find pictures like this all over the internet. This is well done, applause to whomever. And again, a little issue with coloration, we'll talk about that, but here they are. So you know these guys. And you might say, well, how big Now here's these are the inner four. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then I'm going to go over here and say, Earth sure is not very big compared with Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So these are the inner four, and we'll study them. And the outer four we'll study rather quickly and hint at stars. In fact, when I say hint at stars, how big is a star? I mean, if you think about it, and in chapter 11, you'll learn about how many Jupiters does it take to make a star? Answer that question. And then, are there all stars all the same size? Or are there big ones and small ones? There are big ones and small ones. I hinted, I told you the answer. But how big is our sun? And is it a big one or small one? Chapter 11. We'll get there, but let's study worlds first, because this is where life might be, right? Life might be. But just to tease you, how big is sun? There's Jupiter. Remember, about 10 Earths wide, 11 to be picky. Whoa. Now, if you look at those two pictures, 10 Earths across Jupiter, 10 Jupiters across sun makes 100 Earths. Okay, 109, 110, 109 Earths across the width of sun. This way, and then front to back as well. So stars are enormous, and we'll get to those and what's up with those. So here we go. We've got the inner four planets and the outer four planets, and that's what we're going to study, and then we'll study some of the moons. Of course, the distances here are not correct. These guys are in very close to sun, making it obviously warmer. And then these start separating farther and farther out. Remember those memory aids? Farther and farther, colder and colder, right? What about the little moons? How big are they? We'll think about those and really be able to understand quite a lot. So, you can look at pictures for distances. I won't go there. Moons. So again, we'll be able to understand quite a lot. We'll come back to these moons. Mercury's in here, and this gentleman did this, Calvin Hamilton, thank you. When you can get these images on NASA. Mercury, so compared to Mercury, and we're going to study Mercury now, because if we understand Mercury, we might understand something about Callisto, Titan, and Ganymede, right? If we understand our moon is the size of these, and then they get smaller. We threw Pluto in there just to see, and this is a bad picture, pre-2015 picture of Pluto, just to emphasize how long it took us to get a good image of Pluto. So the last thing before we begin is, look at how far we've come. Look at how far we have come. From looking at dots in the sky that don't stay next to the same star. I mean, they don't move. They don't move in one night. In one night, they're pretty much right next to that star. You'd have to look really carefully to see it in movement in one night. But you look a week later, sometimes less than that, you might see that that dot has moved. And you look another week or month or whatever, and hey, it's next to different stars. It's a wanderer. Greek for wanderer, planet, right? And of course, you can include sun and moon as a wanderer because they aren't in front of the same stars either. What are they? Gods. And so we often learn the Greek or Roman mythology, right? And then start taking stories literally and saying those are gods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to emphasize that those aren't the only stories on the family of humans around the globe, right? So there's other very interesting stories. Nonetheless, there was great things done, and people looked up at these dots in the sky, and they're dots. Look at stars. What are those dots in the sky? And so we've come a long way from chapter 1, observing and wondering with our naked eye, mapping with our naked eye, till we get a telescope. And then scientific revolution took off, and we've been able to explore these and find out that these are worlds. Earth isn't the only world. Things don't go around Earth, but rather these are worlds. And these planets have moons. And those are worlds. Perhaps there's life on moons. So with every star, maybe there's planets and moons. And how many chances are there? Don't draw a conclusion. It takes a lot of strength to not draw a conclusion when you don't know. But if you think, then go ahead and explore. But that's the hard work of doing science. There's hard work of making music, and we that don't get paid to make music enjoy their wonderful work, right? So we've come so far. And now let's look at these dots as worlds, because we can travel throughout our hood with spacecraft. Okay? And we'll talk about that.